Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to ECTV Live. I'm joined, as I always am, by my co-host Rusty Fender. Rusty, welcome.
Good to see you, David.
And good to see you as well. Big event coming up very shortly. It is a milestone year for the Lackawanna River Fest. Bernie McGruel is with us. And Bernie, why milestone this year?
Hi, Bernie.
Well, hey, Rusty, David, thanks for the opportunity to join you guys here and talk to the folks. We are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Lackawanna River Conservation Association this year, and we're celebrating it with Riverfest in May, next Saturday, May 13th, and we'll be having activities during the summer. But in September, we're going to have a whole bunch of activities at Sweeney's Beach and throughout the community. But we're really enjoying the river this year. It's up with all the rain, and it's a special year for us.
Now let's go back to the beginning. You say it started 30 years,
Yeah.
And of course, when I was in regular news coverage in the area, my typical coverage of the river was when it wasn't within its banks. It was rather in many of the neighborhoods.
Yeah, on
and
occasion.
not very well known for good quality at that.
Absolutely.
Certainly back then. What caused the association to come together? How did this all begin?
Well, it was a lot of that, David. The river was in rough shape. What had been a beautiful natural waterway 150 to 200 years ago, before the area was settled and then industrialized, was really decimated by the urbanization. All of the sewers dumped into the river. The coal mines were here. The railroads were here.
Everything went into the river.
Everything went into the river. And by the time we were kids, back in the 50s and 60s, it was a dead river. But gradually, the mining industry went away, and the municipalities developed sanitary treatment plants. So the river started cleaning up. But we felt that there was more to be done. So back in the 1980s, there was a lot going on in this community. We had some opportunities that came about with the development of the Steamtown National Historic Site. And people recognized that we were really a special area of the country. We had a culture that was, people came here from the old world, settled, worked in the coal mines, worked on the railroad, worked in the mills, worked in the textile industry, and a lot of families stayed here. They put down roots. So we had a culture of people from various parts of Europe, Africa, Asia, who all immigrated here and formed a community that I think is really has some special bonds, both within the people who live here, and I think people gradually really cared about this environment. That's what brought people here originally 200 years ago. This was seen as one of the most beautiful parts of the eastern United States and the mountains of Pennsylvania. So that cultural awareness began to grow in the 1980s with the idea of interpreting our history through Steamtown and showing that this is a place where people can come and visit. This is a place where tourists can come. So you're not just going to be going to Austria or Switzerland like you're going to be going in a couple of weeks, but you can come to Pennsylvania, look at the way the culture and the industry developed, and enjoy the habitat and the environment.
Well, you started out then in this campaign to really
we've got a great river.
Really get it clean and things. When were you first able to make use of it recreationally?
Yeah. Well, actually, a little bit before the LRCA, back in 1973, there were some groups of folks that got together with actually the JCs and some folks with the Scranton Chamber and some folks with the city of Scranton down at Western Field, the Department of Parks and Recreation. That became a focal point of saying, hey, we can canoe the river now. We can get out there and enjoy it because the sewer plants are online, and we're no longer polluting the river with sanitary waste every day.
Thanks mainly to the South Scranton one, which was the first to go online.
Right, it was. Yeah.
That was the first one, because back then, you remember, Bernie, they dragged their feet for decades because they said, well, the excuse was that the mines were too close to the surface to separate the sanitary from the stormwater, but that wasn't true. So they dragged their feet for decades to get that done.
Yeah.
It was old philosophy, old thinking back then.
That's right. Yeah, Rusty. a lot of people don't know our sewer plant in Scranton was actually designed in 1940, and it took 26 years to get it online. So, but it did. It finally came online.
That's government anywhere, Bernie.
Between 1966 and 72, the Scranton system was online, and then the Lackawanna River Basin system came online in the early 70s. So finally, the river was clean enough for people to have contact sport with it, and so groups would start canoeing it, and the first canoeathon was held in 1973. So all during the 70s and into the early 80s, the canoeathon was conducted. I participated in a couple of the early ones, but I just got involved, and gradually groups of folks got together and said, we need to do a little bit more. We just can't paddle the river once a year. We need to create an organization that will help to be an advocate for the river.
There all the time.
Every day of the year.
Yeah.
So that led to the creation of the Lackawanna River Corridor Association in 1987. And 2 years ago, we changed our name to Lackawanna River Conservation Association because we're all about the entire Lackawanna watershed. We realize that if you're going to save the river, you've got to save the mountain and everything that goes from the mountain to the river. So stormwater is the next big issue that we really need to deal with in our watershed. We still have the legacy of mining down in Old Forge. The river is still running orange with mine drainage, but we're working on that. So there's projects and activities up and down this watershed to improve the water quality, and one of our main partners, the Lackawanna Heritage Valley Authority, is developing a trail system along the river, along with our fellow nonprofit, the Rail Trail Council of Northeast Pennsylvania. So people are coming to the river. They can get to the river now, where you couldn't get to it years ago. There was junkyards, there were embankments with trash and litter, and now the river is becoming much more accessible.
You folks in your organization hosted some cleanup efforts. Mm-hmm. I remember covering those, and it was hard to fathom what they got out of the river.
More tires than General Motors have seen, probably.
Yeah,
I know. I remember that.
But not just tires from cars, parts of cars.
Parts
right?
of cars, fenders.
Entire cars.
How about some rusty fenders? We
The whole car. Now, where I live in Old Forge, it was a whole car between the Bridge Street Bridge and it was a whole car underneath.
Now, you still have those cleanups. So I'm kind of wondering, are you pulling less and less out?
We are, but there's still a lot more coming in that's surprising. We had a cleanup last year that cleaned up 496 tires, just at one spot in North Scranton at Parker Street.
Isn't that amazing? Parker Street with river winds around.
Our friends in the Rail Trail Council, they had a cleanup a couple weeks ago in the upper watershed, and they've cleaned up another 400 tires just in the last month or so in the upper watershed. So tires are still a huge problem.
It's kind of a sad story.
No one takes them. That's the whole thing. No one takes them to recycle.
Electronics are a big problem now, especially the old big television. The Pennsylvania regulations don't allow electronics to be mixed in with the waste that goes to our landfill. So they were being recycled when the market was up a few years ago. You could actually get paid for taking your computer monitor.
When they went flat screen, then those were kind of valuable for the metals in them.
But now that metals market is saturated, and the cost, because of separating the plastic from the metal, actually the physical recycling cost of that material, it makes it cost prohibitive. So the agencies that are taking it now in Pennsylvania are charging. We had one big screen TV that we picked up last year, and it was about 175 pounds, and we paid $2.25 a pound to get rid of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's a major problem, and you're starting to see people putting TVs and computer monitors out for the trash, and the Public Works won't pick them up. So they're sitting on the curbs and sidewalks, and then they're ended up walking into the woods. So that's a big problem now, tires and electronics. Less so for some of the other metals, because the price of metal, scrap metal, is high, so we're not seeing the washing machines and water heaters and stoves and things like that. They're getting picked up by salvagers, but the shopping carts are still getting in. Kids will push them. Folks will
Wow.
take the shopping cart home. They'll, wheel it up the street to get to their neighborhood, and then they leave it out, and the kids
What a lack
roll it
of
down the river.
respect for nature. I hate to sound like the old Indian on the public service commercials with the tear in his eye, but if folks could come back from 150 years ago and see what they do to the environment, it's truly maddening.
I
It really is.
remember when we had Chopper 22 at WYOU, and I'd be flying over strip mines in this area that became dumping
Filled with
grounds.
garbage,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's talk about
Absolutely.
cars, put in there,
Absolutely.
and then of course some of the water from those ends up one way or another to the river
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But basically, you've now got a river that is a heck of a lot cleaner than it was 30 years ago. And the same, by the way, with the Susquehanna. We're going to be doing a separate show in a couple of weeks about a river fest down in Wilkes-Barre as well. But it's so good to see this improvement that's been made, to the extent that the Lackawanna and Susquehanna, that were for many years looked at as liabilities to our area, are now becoming more and more viewed as assets to our area. So Riverfest itself, coming up this coming Saturday, I believe.
Yep,
Yes?
Saturday, May 13th. Yep.
Okay, and tell us what happens at Riverfest.
Well, Dave, it's a multi-component event, and there's something going on all day. We start the day off with a canoe and kayak race, which we still call the Canoeathon, and that actually gets launched, and it's a very complex race. We have 2 launch points. Our traditional launch point at Archbald, and then we have a secondary launch point at Blakely. And the reason we do that is because between Archbald and Blakely, there is some Class 2 to Class 3 whitewater. And we've discovered over the years that novices that think, oh, there's an event that we can go and paddle on the Lackawanna. Well, we ended up pulling a lot more people out. We couldn't do this event without the first responders.
He calls it whitewater. I call it rapids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been in a canoe on a river, hearing what I thought were tractor trailers, until the fellow who was sort of guiding me said, no, that's the rapids. And you want to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you hold on and let someone else take you through.
So we had a lot of experience pulling people out, and we really depend on some of the great first responders in the community. All the volunteer fire and ambulance services in the Mid-Valley are out in force, and they've got a lot of river rescue training, and this gives them an opportunity to, they're fully deployed already, so they can get some training opportunity in as well. But they do actually help pull people out. But over the years, we decided that we've got a better secondary launch site at Blakely, at the Blakely Recreation Park, right off of Keystone Avenue in Peckville, and we've been using that. And we encourage people, if you don't have the competent whitewater skills, launch at Blakely, and it's a safe run down to Scranton. So we still have our Archbald launch if you know what you're doing, and we've also transitioned from canoes. Most of our participants now are kayakers.
That's the big thing now.
And
is, yeah.
kayaking
Absolutely.
it's a lot more fun, I think, than canoeing. I mean, canoeing, you've got a partner, you've got to steer to the right, paddle to the right. When you're in a kayak, you're all on your own. You're the decision maker, so you don't have to fight with the guy in the back or the guy in the front to avoid that rock or tree. So we've got more kayakers running. So we've got kayaks, we've got canoes, we've got 2 men, 2 women, men and women, adults and youth, and single people in kayaks. So we've got to give it first, second, and third place from 2 launch points in all those categories. So it's a real challenge to do the calculations
What kind
for
of
this.
distance you talking about with those?
It's 12 miles from Archbald to Scranton and 8 miles from Blakely to Scranton.
So it's a long run.
So
Miles.
if you know what you're doing, the racers that are really serious and competing with one another, they can finish it in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So most of the finishers are coming in anytime between 11:30 and 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And at 1 o'clock, actually, if you're racing, you want to be in by 1 o'clock. Otherwise, we cut off the calculations at 1 o'clock. So if you
Times will
come in
be
after
quick
1,
this year, though, with the high water.
yeah,
It
we're
still
expecting
stays
they'll be
Saturday.
a
You gotta
lot
get
quicker. So we
exact big
actually
time.
might have some finishers coming in by 11:15 down at the finish line. So the race moves down to the finish line, and then at the finish line, which is at a site we call Sweeney's Beach It's located in the off of Poplar Street in the Pinebrook neighborhood in Scranton, and it's a piece of city-owned property that was never used by the city because there used to be a railroad bed that came through there, and you couldn't get across the tracks. So the railroad was abandoned. Over the years, an adjoining property was acquired by Lackawanna College for their athletic practice fields, and they needed a way to get in, so they actually acquired use of the railroad bed. They removed the tracks and put in a gravel driveway. So when they did that, we approached the college and made arrangements to share the use of that driveway
And give
with
you
them.
access then.
And we developed a long-term management plan with the city so we can apply for grants, and we did some initial development there, and made some leasehold improvements basically. And now we created a really nice access site. There's a gravel bar at a bend in the river, and you're actually across on the east side of the river from the farmer's market.
Okay.
So if you get to the farmer's market, you can get to Sweeney's
Where the
Beach.
trestle was.
Yeah, right near
Yeah,
there was an old railroad trestle there across, and when that railroad was abandoned,
Yes,
they tore out
exactly.
the trestle as well. So it's a nice site where you can land 20 or 30 canoes and kayaks at a time. It's the best landing site for this event in the city, and we love it there. This is our second year that we've had the event there, so we're looking forward to it. We get to set up. There's a nice grassy area. At the old site at Olive Street, we had to deal with the heavy traffic. There's no heavy traffic there, so it's a much safer site. We have vendors. We've got food vendors. We've got. We're going to have a beer and wine. We have an LCB licensed area this year. We're going to have a whole bunch of craft vendors, children's activities. We've got all kinds of educational activities. Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources will be there. We've got Lackawanna College Environmental Center. They'll be there. A whole bunch of interesting crafts for adults and kids.
And
some
great sponsors as well. I'm glad to see Lindy, who I do a radio show with Cabot Oil and Gas. They've been, Scott Lindy and the folks in Pittston have been so instrumental with environmental cleanups for all the pipelines they put in the 5 counties. So glad to see Scott Lindy and Lindy again involved in this.
Scott's a good friend, and we've been working. He's actually one of our founding members back in the early 80s.
I remember that very well. I know him a long time.
He's got a great environmental
Yes, he does.
ethic,
Policy.
and we've worked together quite well. And we're also partnering this year again with Pennsylvania American Water and Pennsylvania American. They're going to have they've got a new educational outreach water van. And Susan Turkmanovich will be there with her folks.
And it's perfect. They just took over the sewage treatment plant too in Southside. So this is
Yes,
the perfect
yeah.
tie-in
So
for good media relations.
we have a lot of programming and work that we do, outreach work and education work with children that we do with Pennsylvania American Water
Well, it's
Company.
one of the things I really like about the Riverfest is that, it's great to be a participant and take your kayak or your canoe and enjoy the river that way. But a lot of people just like to come and watch those who are
Absolutely.
who are participating that way, and then take advantage of some of these other activities at that finish line.
Yeah, we have a lot of folks and it's free too, David. You bring the kids, bring the whole family. It doesn't cost you a penny, there's lots of activities. There's lots of fun. We've got music all afternoon. We got some great bands this year. We're going to start out actually at 11:30 with Lightweight. It's a duo doing traditional rock and some of their own music. Then we got the Young Burgo duo, which is some alternative music. And then we've got the Mountain Sky Orchestra is going to be playing for the balance of the afternoon into the early evening.
Where will those musical presentations be?
Right at Sweeney's Beach, we have a music tent, and then there's a big grassy area. You can stretch out, bring a picnic blanket. We've got chairs and tables that you can bring. We've got tents, and I think the weather is going to be iffy, and it's been a cold, damp May. So we're going to have tents and tables and chairs, so folks can enjoy that under the cover of a tent. We're going to have all kinds of vendors, as I said, and then we have 2 fun activities in the afternoon. Actually, 3. If you're thinking, gee, I'd like to paddle in the event, but I'm afraid of whitewater, or you've never done any paddling,
Oh, you can't swim.
or that's a whole. We're not doing swimming instruction.
If you want to help me, don't help me,
If
David.
you'd like to learn how to paddle a kayak, if you'd like to get into kayaking, we bring our friend Art Coolbaugh and Susquehanna Canoe and Kayak Rental over, and he's got 20 kayaks, and we do 2 instructional kayak paddle excursions in the afternoon. One is at 1:30, and the other's at 3 o'clock. So he's got his van. He'll pack everybody into the van and take everybody up to. We have another launch point at Parker Street that we developed last year. That's where we cleaned up those 400 tires.
Yes, yeah.
We developed a parkland area there right next to the Parker
That's a
House.
good, there's a
Parker
sandbar on that curve. That's a great
Yeah.
area because there's a sandbar
Yeah.
on the river from the silt
So
buildup.
they're great spots to both launch boats and also for fishing. And we created a parking area there at Parker Street too. So we bring the instructional kayak excursion up there, and that's a 1-hour paddle. It's a 3-mile trip back down to the finish line, and Art and his staff are along to tutor everybody to get them into
So
paddle
that's
sport.
not a race, that's just
That's
a
an
learning
excursion, learning
opportunity.
opportunity. Or if you just want to go for a short paddle on the river, and there is a fee for that. It's $35 for that, and you
Okay.
get instruction, and you get a life jacket and everything, and paddle and everything.
What do you
need.
wear for that? Like a bathing gear is what you would wear?
Well,
or some
if
type
you're going
of
to
like
get, you
a
might
warm
get wet.
suit, right?
Yeah,
That's
you
what I
want to
thought, right?
Yeah,
You would use.
and you also want to wear artificial fabric. If you've got Polar
Of
Tech.
course, right?
You do not want to wear cotton.
Exactly,
Anywhere,
nothing absorbent.
wool
Right.
or artificial fabric. You don't want to have cotton anywhere near the water because that's going to wick. It's going to hold that cold water next to your skin, and you'll get hypothermia.
and it's going to weight you down if
Yeah,
should
weigh
something
you down
happen,
as well.
unfortunately,
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, so artificial fabric, and away you go. You're going to be, it'll take that water away from you. So, though that goes on from 1:30 and 3 o'clock. Then at 3 o'clock, we're challenging everybody. Get your sense of humor going. Get your creativity going. We have a regatta. And I want to challenge everybody in the viewing audience. The regatta is free. We're giving away cash prizes as well as gift certificates from some of our sponsors and some of the restaurants and shops in the area that have made donations to us of gift certificates. So we've got a whole range of really neat prizes. The regatta is absolutely free. All you need is something that floats long enough to get from the Poplar Street Bridge. We're going to launch at another gravel bar in back of the Public Works Yard, and you got about 1,000 feet. So if you can get something that floats, bring your canoe, bring your kayak, or make something. It has to be decorated, and you've got to be decorated with a costume on of some type. Paddle down there, and we're going to take a tally. You can register advance so we know who you are, and
Pretty imaginative,
we're going to be
huh?
making some prizes and some awards, and there'll be some cash prizes for that. So I want to challenge everybody: get it on and get out there and join us. So to get to Poplar Street, it's right off of Wyoming Avenue in Scranton. If you can find Scranton Prep and Bernie Honda and National Bakery, you can find Sweeney's Beach. So
You
it's
come up with your craft. And
Yeah.
Does our coffee table float?
I think this may be able to.
But you don't
we have
swim.
we have a
But you
double.
don't
Well, I got to go
swim.
on the top
Yeah,
level. You
yeah.
can go on the lower level
Yeah.
of this one. It's like a sleeper bird.
well, we got the flag on there, so that's a good start.
yeah, that's right.
And so the regatta goes off at 3 o'clock, and then by 3:30 we've gotten that safely off the river and made our judgments and awards, and then at 4 o'clock we've got a duck race. And this is
Like this?
this is a pretty unique duck race. This is one of the examples of one of the ducks. We don't put 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 little rubber duckies in the river because you're never going to catch them all, and then they become plastic waste and plastic debris floating in somebody's water somewhere. So we got away from doing that, and we have basically it's like a sweepstakes of duck races. We've got 10 ducks numbered 0 to 9, and anywhere in the world, if you sell a raffle ticket, it's going to end in an integer 0 to 9. So we segregate all the tickets that we sell by their last number in their sequence. So say duck number 5 comes in first, and you've got ticket number 5. Well, you'll have a chance because we'll pick the winner out of box number 5.
Okay.
So these dozen or 10 racing ducks, they're special Lackawanna River racing ducks, made in the United States. And they're all variously
And there's-
decorated.
But there's no motor.
No motor, no. These ducks are they're self-motivated. They go with the flow of the river.
Okay.
And they get launched. We like to recruit some of the kids that are at the event, and we have a special duck launching gate. We take it down a little bit upstream of the finish line. It gets submerged. The ducks are free, and they do their thing. And the first 3 across the finish line, we
And what
record
time
their
is
numbers.
that?
And that's at 4 o'clock.
That's at 4.
And we'll be selling duck tickets all day long. So the event is free, but if you buy a duck ticket, they're $5 each or 8 for 20. You can win, and our cash prize is $500 for the first duck,
Wow.
$250 for the second, and $100 for the third. So you're going to have, and somebody wins every year.
A lot happening.
yeah.
A lot happening.
Yeah.
We're just about out of time, so if
Good luck on the 30th.
if folks do
Yep.
have questions about any of the activities, getting involved in them, or coming to see them,
Yep.
how can they contact the?
They can give us a call at the LRCA office, and the number is 570-347-6311, or they can visit our website, and that's www.lrca.org, or check us out on Facebook.
Okay, Bernie McGrill,
Thanks,
you so
Bernie.
much
All right, Davey.
for joining us. Sounds like a
Rusty,
really
thank
great
you, guys.
activity.
Yes, sir.
Have a great time.
All
Rusty,
righty.
thank you so much.
And you and Leona have a good trip to Austria.
Thank
as
you
well.
so much. We'll watch, see
Godspeed.
if we find any canoes over there,
Yes,
any kayaks.
indeed.
There you go.
Thanks,
on
Mark.
on the Rhine. Yeah, Mark McGlory, thanks for keeping us in focus. I'm David DeCosmo. So we see you again next week for ECTV Live. Here's hoping all your news is good.